Hey everybody, it's Troy Clymer, COO, CFO of Balance Claims, Board Advisor for the American Policyholder Association. I'm here with one of my great friends, John Houghtaling. Now, John is one of the most influential people I know. He's also a very good friend. He is the leading board director for the American Policyholder Association. He's been here at this Win the Storm conference working his butt off to take the message about prosecuting criminally contractor fraud to the masses. So I'm going to let John introduce himself and tell his story about why he's so passionate about the American Policyholder Association, and then we're going to let you know how you can get involved. John?
So when we're talking about, we say insurance fraud, we almost always hear about the contractor, right? Yeah. The contractor's fraud, and we hear about policyholders doing that. They're the bad guys. The reality is what we're seeing more and more is we're seeing insurance companies committing fraud against contractors, insurance companies committing fraud against policyholders. When you look at a storm and there's a loss, the contractor and the policyholder their financial interests are aligned. They want to maximize benefits on that policy. The insurance company, on the other hand, is not aligned. They have a conflict of interest with the policyholder, and so they're pushing those claims down. And what's happening, though, is they're getting bold, and they're forging reports. The way the APA came about was, actually you have to go all the way back. To the history of the APA, you got to look all the way back to Katrina. Because in Katrina, we saw forged engineering reports. The carriers committing fraud, insurer fraud against people, where they were forging engineering reports. And the Attorney General, Jim Hood, who was here at this conference, came to this conference, he prosecuted State Farm, and he had a grand jury on the fact that engineers were actually forging stuff. What we found out in Sandy was the same engineers doing the same thing. The same guys are doing the same thing.
So it was systemic.
Systemic through the industry.
Multiple storms.
More than a decade and a half later. They're doing this across. And what we're seeing now is they're doing more and more of it, where the insurance companies are outsourcing the adjustment, and they're using the engineers to deny causation. You see, it's very hard. The insurance company comes, house is destroyed, roof's ripped off, obviously damaged. What do you do? It's covered. So what the insurance companies are doing is they're hiring engineers to deny the causation so they don't have to pay. And these engineering companies are doing these engineering reports en masse for the insurance companies, and sometimes they cross the line to be insurance fraud. In Sandy, what we did is we took a page out of Jim Hood's, Attorney General Jim Hood's case. We went to the Attorney General. We said, wait a second, I was suing, a bunch of lawyers and a bunch of adjusters and stuff were trying to push their cases civilly.
So for those who don't know John owns a very well-known policyholder advocacy law firm and has spent a significant portion of one of his careers suing insurance companies.
Yeah, and so that's what we did. We were one of the lead firms in Katrina. That we worked with the Attorney General there, and so we went on the road. And when this same thing happened, we saw happen in Katrina. What's happened in New York? We went up there. I ended up investing over 80%. In over 80% of the initial litigation. I mean, I funded the litigation in New York in Superstorm Sandy, over 80% of the initial litigation. And we were losing money. I mean, I had up to $30 million, if you considered everything in there, into the litigation. It was going wrapped up, and it was going nowhere. And I had clients losing their houses. 50 of my clients went bankrupt.
Oh, God.
50 of them. I had one that ended up killing herself. Her house was getting repossessed. She couldn't took it. And all waiting on that litigation. And that's when we said, you know something? This is fraud. What's happening to these people? They're taking everything they ever owned and taking it away from them. And what we did is we went to the Attorney General and we said, hey, it's fraud. And you know what? He arrested an executive from one of the engineering companies.
Fraud is a crime.
Yeah.
The APA is not talking about civil litigation, talking about criminal litigation.
Correct. And it's a good point, right? Because there's lowballing, there's bad faith. But then there's a crossing the line where the engineer or the adjuster knows he's creating a false report, okay? Knows that that's stuff there, and you can prove that they did it, that they knew that they were creating a false report to take an unjust advantage against somebody. We all talk about how, it could be fraud by making up a fake report to be too high. Yeah. It can be fraud by making a fake report to do too low. And that's what we're finally, for the first time in the industry, there is now an organization to go to that will listen to you on criminal fraud.
Now the APA is a 501c4, correct?
Correct.
Now tell everybody who's watching us what that is.
So what that is, basically is a political action vehicle. All right, so the American Policy Association is not for contractors or attorneys or adjusters. It's for policyholders. So it is. I'm actually a board advisor and not a director. The people that are directors that run it are not in the business, and that was on purpose because we want a thing that's out there that's not a nonprofit, that's not insulated. It's insulated in that way. But what they do is they look, and if they see fraud, they will go to the Attorney General. Because you know what, Troy, when you're handling a case, when you're handling negotiating things, or we're doing something, we're out there, or contractors are on the jobs doing that stuff, they're too busy to be making complaints, and we don't make complaints. That's
they
the
had
problem.
no vehicle to make a complaint before the APA. There was no sheriff for them to go to.
Well, they could do it, but they'd have to go on their own, and who has time for that? So here's what you're able to do as a member of the APA. When you're a member of the APA, you're working on if you're a lawyer in your civil case, or you're an adjuster in your thing, if you're just a policyholder, you can tell them if you see fraud, I'm reporting you to the APA. Take a look at what the APA does. Look at the news. Look at what they've done in the news. Look what they've done in the past. I'm reporting you. It's like saying, I'm going to call the police.
Yeah.
That's a big difference because these guys, only 1% of claims go into litigation. 1%. 99% of the people that are out there, if they face this kind of fraud, have nowhere to go. And for the worst conduct, we need a vehicle. So what the 501c4 does, what we do, the American Policy Association does, is we meet with the Attorney Generals, everyone, all 50 states. We have met already with 16 Attorney Generals.
Wow.
And we are explaining to them, that the industry is meeting with you saying it's the contractors committing fraud. Let me tell you a different side of the story. Let me tell you this against your voters, Attorney General. This is what's happening. It's going out there, and here's what the other Attorney General says about it. Here's what the other Attorney General says about it.
Because they're just uninformed.
They're uninformed. And we have now Attorney General Jim Hood, who started this, who on the camera said, it happened to me. Now Eric Schneiderman showed it to him, and now it's happening again. And now the Attorney Generals are talking. Just while I was at the storm, I got contacted by 3 Attorney Generals.
And they want to get involved.
From different states. They want to hear what's happening to their voters. They are the law enforcement officer, but somebody has to give it to them. So what the APA is going to do is APA is going to be that vehicle for you or the consumer that when they go on, they have to go on with their life. They got to do their thing. Maybe a lawyer has to file a lawsuit. He can't mess with the criminal stuff. So what he does is he says, I'm reporting to the APA and I'm turning it over. Well, that'll get their attention if they know they did wrong.
And they can report to the APA if they're a professional member right on the APA's website, which is www.apassociation.org. Now listen, you can get involved as the APA. It's very easy. We recommend that if you're in this industry and you're making profit and contributing and doing it right, you have to be involved with the APA. At Balance, for instance, we rebate the cost of your professional membership back to you in services every month. It is $985 a year or $84 a month to get involved with the APA. You need to sign up and get involved in this. I heard a horror story earlier at one of our panels. Was a gentleman used to be an independent adjuster, and he's now quit and started his own contracting firm because he was appalled at what was going on.
Yeah.
He was being encouraged by he was working for a third-party administrator for an insurance carrier, and I won't name them here on camera, who was systemically training him on how to deny damage, and then
damage that they knew was there.
Incentivizing him.
Yeah.
Paying him higher commissions when he denied a known damage to the house. Mm-hmm. It's appalling. People are upset with it. You need to get involved. It's apassociation.org. John, give us one last parting shot on it.
Well, I believe in this enough, in this mission, that I've donated 50,000 shares of an oil and gas company that I own. And those shares could provide the APA $1 million a year for the next 19 to 20 years. That's how much we've got in here to be able to do the right thing. This is not a to use leverage to cry wolf thing. This is when you really see fraud. If you really do see fraud,
when it's
report it. When it is a crime, when it is a criminal act, that's what this is for. And I wanted to have something that would last a long time, that people would know we're going to be here, to develop the relationships with the attorney generals over the time, to explain to them what's happening here. The insurance industry has an organization like this. The consumer needs one, and now they have it.
John, I want to thank you for your gift of that endowment, and thank you for your time here describing the mission of the APA.
Well, thanks a lot, Troy. Thanks for all of your help, and thanks for being a board advisor.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Great.